star systems settled into predictable orbits. Civilizations rose and fell in the margins, but the great empires, the Zolari, the Trisynth, the Glari Concord, had reached equilibrium eons ago. War was obsolete. Progress irrelevant. A slow, dignified stagnation wrapped around the stars like velvet. That was how Observer Tyrell of the Zolari liked it. His mind stretched across 100 sensor feeds in orbit around Sector N9.041, known as the Ash Span, a region once burned in ancient war, now cold and quiet. His kind had maintained the archives of the known galaxy for over 30 millennia. He had watched planets die and civilizations vanish into silence. He recorded. He remembered. He did not expect anything new. And then the signal came. A sharp frequency spike analog, ancient by 100 standards, pierced the silence. Soul. One word. Buried in a storm of radiation and quantum echo. Broadcast from inside a dead star system, long since catalogued as uninhabitable. No warp gates. No population. No record of visitation in 10,000 cycles. Tyrell paused. His translucent fingers hovered over the control console of the observatory. Sol. He hadn't heard that name in a long, long time. He checked the signal structure. Crude. Pulsed. Like firelight in the dark. It carried no encryption, no metadata. Just raw linguistic content. Not Galactic Common. Not Zolari. Not any major tongue. But he recognized it. Human language. Impossible. Humanity had vanished at least 6,000 cycles ago, obliterated in the siege of Thorn Drift, consumed in their own wars, their planets left fallow and forbidden. No trace remained. No colony survived. The last encounter was a single Terran warship in the Keltra Verge, screaming through the void, its AI howling forgotten Earth hymns before self-destructing. Sol Tyrell whispered. The signal pulsed again. This time, it was accompanied by a transmission header, crude vector data, pointing toward an impossible coordinate cluster. Coordinates for a star system that shouldn't exist. He opened the sector's latest data map and blinked. A new system had appeared. A star, dark and hollow, surrounded by 12 orbiting megastructures, impossible in scope, immaculate in design. Thousands of kilometers wide, orbiting with exact mathematical precision. No natural formation could explain it. A star world. And from its core, the human signal kept calling. Council of Still Minds. The response from the Galactic Concord was immediate and slow, as all things ancient were. Tyrell's report reached the central quorum within 2 days. His analysis was reviewed by the AI remnants of the Trisynth Collective, filtered through the diplomatic layers of the Glari, and finally delivered to the ruling triad of the Zolari. They convened in silence. A signal from the dead, one of them said. Or a trap, said another. Or worse, a return. There were legends, of course. Among younger species, humanity had become myth, a species of fire and steel, of mad experiments and infinite adaptability. A virus with ambition. A people who bent the laws of physics out of sheer stubbornness. A threat so dangerous that, even after extinction, their ruins were quarantined. And yet the Zolari had always known better. Humanity had not died. They had simply left. Mission designate, Saros. Tyrell was summoned to accompany an envoy mission to the coordinates of the new star world. Mission designate, Saros. Scientific and interspecies reconnaissance of Sol. The vessel assigned, UNS Halcyon Spiral, an interspecies diplomatic craft built for exploration, not war. Aboard the mission, Tyrell Zolari Observer Mission Commander. Kel Vox Glari Diplomatic Proxy. Nuri Synth 9 Trisynth AI Cogitator, embedded in the hull. Several lesser biotechs and assistants. Tyrell didn't sleep, but if he did, he wouldn't have. Something was wrong. Arrival. 3 weeks later, they dropped from slip space at the system's edge, and the crew fell silent. There it was. The dark star spun slowly at the system's heart, an artificial fusion remnant, its light dimmed by a massive Dyson-like structure. Orbiting it were massive habitats, shaped like rings, spheres, even tesseract shells, each emitting faint power signatures and broadcasting low-frequency pulses. The signal was louder here. Soul, 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 soul. Repeating. Echoing. Not a distress call. Not a trap. Just a presence. Life, Kel Vox asked, his liquid body forming cautious ripples. No known biosigns, replied Synth 9, its voice a harmonic whisper, but structure integrity is flawless. Zero degradation. Tarell leaned toward the viewfield. A single massive platform, a gateway, began to open. Something's waiting, he said quietly. Something's watching us. Contact. The halcyon spiral moved into orbit, its engines humming in nervous rhythm. Then, from the star world, a vessel emerged. Sleek, angular, silent. No emissions, no communication. It simply moved toward them with a speed that defied calculation. Space warped slightly around its hull. Then it stopped. A voice filled their comms. No distortion, no language barrier. You have come to Sol. You are welcome, Observer Tarell. Tarell froze. The others turned to him. He hadn't transmitted his name. Identify yourselves, he said, voice tight. The voice replied, calm and cold. We are human. We remember you. In the darkness between galaxies, a vessel stirred awake. It was not a ship as mortals understood, a forged construct of steel and engines. It was a living cathedral of bone and crystal, older than many galaxies themselves. Its surface rippled with veins of bioluminescence, like thoughts made flesh. Inside, silence ruled. Not the absence of sound, but a silence so ancient that it pressed against the skull, bending thought inward. The crew, the Shy Door as they were named in forgotten tongues, lay cocooned in translucent chambers, dreaming one endless dream. Their forms were shifting shadows of limbs and light, neither solid nor vapor. Each heartbeat was a tremor that resonated through the chamber walls. The signal had found them, and it had awakened the navigator. One cocoon split with a wet, crystalline fracture. A form unfolded, towering, draped in membranes of silver flesh, its skull elongated into an obsidian crown. Eyes, not spherical but fractal, opened, multi-layered pupils that rotated like mechanical apertures, drinking in the light. This was the navigator. It had no name. Names belonged to species bound by death and forgetting. It had purpose instead, etched into its marrow, pulsing in its blood, to follow the call. The navigator placed its palm against the organic wall. Immediately, the ship exhaled a low moan of matter reshaping. Filaments of light pulsed, carrying awareness through corridors. One by one, the crew stirred, but not all would rise. Some had died in slumber centuries ago, their shells fossilized within the ship's flesh. The navigator did not mourn. Death was a function, a narrowing of path. What mattered was the descent. The signal had come from a world on the edge of a spiral galaxy, a blue sphere swaddled in thin atmosphere, noisy with seas and storms. To its inhabitants, the signal was a whisper lost among billions of transmissions. But to the Shy Door, it was a scream. Through the ship's sensory lattice, the navigator saw the planet. Rotating, breathing, alive. It pulsed like prey unaware of the predator's shadow. The ship's tendrils unfurled, piercing the void. Segments rearranged themselves, preparing for entry. From the planet's orbit, the vessel would look like a drifting star, mistaken for a comet or dismissed as nothing at all. The ship folded space around itself, bending light until it vanished into the planetary shadow. Atmosphere pressed against its hull, flames licking the edges of its crystalline plates. The ship moaned again, but the sound was not external, it was in the minds of its crew, vibrating within their skulls. The navigator felt gravity like a hook. It inhaled through gill like slits, drinking the chemical cocktail of this world's air as it leaked through vents. It was poisonous. It was perfect. The descent would not go unseen. Already, mechanicalized satellites caught flickers. Already, radar screens spiked in military bunkers. Already, a handful of humans tilted their heads to the sky, whispering myths of falling stars. But the Shidor were not falling. They were arriving. The vessel did not crash. It settled, a slow ripple through atmosphere, an unseen bending of space, then silence. Where forests once breathed, the trees bent toward the center, their branches quivering as if in worship. The ground was scarred, but not burned. Not yet. The Shidor ship rooted itself like a seed. Tendrils of crystal and bone unfurled, piercing deep into the soil, drinking minerals, testing chemistry. The navigator extended awareness, and the ship responded like a body stretching its limbs after slumber. To human satellites above, nothing registered. No crater. No explosion. The forest canopy closed itself, hiding the intrusion like a wound that refused to scar. The planet had been pierced without its knowing. The navigator's mandibles clicked a command. 2 scouts birthed themselves from the ship's flesh. Their bodies were lithe, translucent, their bones glowing faintly like trapped lightning. They unfolded from sacks, dripping with fluid, then slithered onto the forest floor. Every step was soundless. Every movement blurred at the edges, like they belonged more to thought than matter. The scouts inhaled the air. It corroded their surface, blistering membranes, but they did not scream. Their tissue adapted, reknitting, learning. Each second they grew stronger, more defined, less alien, closer to predators suited for this terrain. One sank into the soil, dissolving into threads of muscle and shadow. The other climbed a tree, merging with bark until only its eyes remained, scanning the horizon. The forest did not notice, but the animals did. Birds froze mid-flight, feathers trembling. Insects silenced their wings. A deer collapsed without cause, its heart arrested by the pressure of something it could not name. Thousands of kilometers away, in a desert airbase, a technician rubbed his eyes. The radar spike had vanished. A blip, just for seconds, then nothing. He replayed the feed again and again, watching the anomaly sink into the atmosphere. Glitch, his superior muttered, not looking up. Write it off. But the technician couldn't. Something about the descent felt too patterned, too deliberate. He scribbled coordinates, hiding them in his pocket. He didn't know why, only that his instincts whispered this was no glitch. Far from him, in a city where neon lights drowned the stars, a child stood at her window. She saw the trees bend on a broadcast replay, caught by a tourist's drone. She didn't understand why it filled her with both awe and dread. Humans were noticing, not governments, not armies, but individuals. The Shidor did not care. Individuals were dust. The ship pulsed, feeding on the planet's marrow. Minerals dissolved into glowing streams. Water warped, twisted into crystalline reservoirs within its walls. The navigator felt the first taste of sustenance in millennia. Its throat vibrated with something between prayer and hunger. But this world was not just minerals and oceans. It was alive. The navigator turned its gaze toward the thinking species. Primitive, divided, loud with weapons, yet blind to the great silence surrounding them. They would be studied. They would be measured. And then, the navigator's fractal eyes spiraled inward, reflecting countless futures. They would be harvested. The forest had grown restless. For 3 nights, Birds refused to return to their nests. The ground animals no longer grazed near the clearing. Even the insects had stilled, as though waiting for something to happen. But one human entered. A ranger named Elias, beard graying, uniform faded, carrying nothing but a lantern, and his rifle moved along the edge of the forbidden valley. He had heard rumors from the nearby village, trees bending unnaturally, animals vanishing. He thought it was poachers, or maybe fires underground. When he reached the clearing, he froze. The air hummed not with sound, but with pressure. His teeth vibrated in his skull. His lantern flickered, then died, though the night was moonless. And then he saw it. The vessel, half buried in earth, breathing like a creature at rest. Its surface glowed faintly with veins of shifting light. It pulsed, and the trees seemed to bow lower, as if in reverence. Elias whispered, "Mother of God." The forest answered back with silence. The watchers awakened. From the ship's side, the scouts stirred. The one in the soil erupted upward, rising in a halo of dirt and roots. Its translucent form hardened, shaping limbs, reshaping a skull that mirrored, almost mocked the human form. The one in the tree blinked, its eyes glowing with fractal spirals. Elias raised his rifle. His hands shook, but instinct held him firm. He fired once. The bullet sank into the scout's chest, but no sound of impact followed. The creature absorbed the metal into its body like water swallowing stone. Its surface rippled, learning, becoming denser. The second scout descended the tree without motion, simply appearing closer, each blink bringing it forward. Elias staggered back, fumbling for his radio. His words came out broken, half-static bass, "This is Elias unknown." The radio dissolved in his hands, melted like wax under a flame. The scouts surrounded him, but they did not strike. They observed. Elias felt their eyes pierce his mind. Memories rushed out against his will, his childhood, his first love, the death of his wife. He fell to his knees, screaming not in pain but in the horror of being read. The navigator's gaze. Inside the vessel, the navigator opened its eyes. Through the scouts, it saw the human, saw his fragility, his fire, his stubborn resistance. It did not understand him, but it recognized the spark. The human mind burned faster than most creatures it had consumed. Its emotions were wild storms, unpredictable, unchained, not efficient, not ordered, but bright. The navigator leaned closer against the organic wall, placing a claw across the living crystal. Its thoughts rippled through the scouts. "Do not kill this one. Not yet. Bring him." Elias tried to crawl, but the forest betrayed him, roots wrapping his legs, soil pulling him back. His lungs burned with a pressure he couldn't fight. The scouts lifted him, not with arms, but with gravity itself bending around him. His body floated, weightless, struggling in a silent scream. He was carried into the ship. The entrance opened like a wound flesh parting, crystal teeth withdrawing. Elias was swallowed whole, lantern falling to the dirt outside, flickering once before going dark. The forest sealed itself behind him. Only silence remained. Elias drifted through corridors of flesh and crystal. The walls pulsed with light, each beat echoing like a heartbeat. The air was thick, damp, alive. He swore it was breathing. Shapes moved within the walls, blurred shadows pressing against the membrane, watching him. Their eyes glowed faintly, fractal spirals shifting endlessly. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed instantly. There was no echo here. When the scouts released him, Elias collapsed onto a surface that felt both solid and soft, like kneeling on bone wrapped in muscle. His skin crawled. Then it came, towering, its body a cathedral of alien geometry, its eyes layered like infinite apertures spinning within each other. It did not walk. It slid forward, every motion too smooth, too perfect. Elias felt the weight of its gaze crash into him. He saw flashes, planets consumed, species harvested, entire skies drained of color. The navigator did not speak with sound. It spoke inside him. You are flame. You are waste. You are bright. You are food. Elias clutched his head, blood dripping from his nose. His mind felt like it was cracking. Its tendrils shot deeper into the earth, piercing aquifers, draining rivers, replacing them with glowing veins of crystal. The soil blackened, yet the forest grew denser around the ship, warped into grotesque shapes, trees twisting into skeletal forms, leaves hardening into glass. Animals caught within were changed. A wolf staggered into the clearing, its body mutating as its blood filled with alien light. Its howl became a distorted static, echoing into the night. This was the first harvest not of humans, not yet, but of the planet's foundation. The ecosystem itself was being rewritten. Humanity notices. In the desert airbase, the technician Ahmed saw the forest anomaly flare on new satellite scans. Vegetation was spreading unnaturally fast, absorbing carbon at rates impossible for Earth. He tried again to raise alarms, but his superiors dismissed him. Yet whispers spread. Amateur astronomers reported strange energy readings. Hunters in the region vanished, and in one village near the valley dozens fell ill overnight, coughing black fluid that glowed faintly in moonlight. The world was beginning to notice, but the world was too slow. Elias's breaking point. Back inside the vessel, Elias was restrained in a cocoon of light. Needles of crystal pierced his skin, not drawing blood, but memory. The navigator fed on his mind. It replayed his memories in fragments, draining them: his wife's laughter, his son's first steps, the way the rain smelled in his hometown. Each time the image replayed, it dimmed, until Elias could barely recall them himself. Tears ran down his face. Stop, please. The navigator tilted its fractal eyes for a moment. Elias felt something that could almost be curiosity. Instead of killing him, it watched. It wanted to see how long a human flame could burn before being extinguished. The omen. On the fifth night, a red aurora spread across the sky, visible far beyond the valley. People across continents looked up, filming, whispering. Scientists scrambled for explanations. But Elias, inside the vessel, saw the truth. The aurora was not light. It was the ship calling others. The signal was no longer just received. It was being amplified, sent outward. The harvest had only begun, and more were coming. The forest was gone. In its place rose a crystal jungle, glowing like frozen lightning. The vessel had expanded, no longer a single body but a sprawling hive of towers and roots. The ground itself pulsed. Rivers ran with liquid light, fish dissolving into streams of energy. Above, the red aurora thickened until the sky itself looked wounded, a scar spreading across continents. Humans everywhere were seeing it now. It could no longer be dismissed. Governments scrambled. Jets were dispatched. Missiles armed. Scientists screamed into microphones about radiation signatures unlike anything seen before. But nothing they sent into the valley returned. Machines failed. Pilots vanished mid-scream. The forest had become a wound no weapon could reach. Elias, the witness. Elias hung within the cocoon, body frail, mind hollowed. Yet something inside him refused to collapse. The navigator had drained much, but not all. He whispered to himself, clinging to fragments of memory. Her name was Anna. My son was Daniel. I remember. The ship heard. The navigator leaned closer, studying him. Why did this fragile flame burn still? Why did he cling to identity when it brought only suffering? Elias felt the alien presence probe deeper. But instead of giving more memories, he fought back. He focused on a single image: his son's face. He forced it into the alien's gaze, projecting it like a weapon. The navigator recoiled, its eyes fracturing into spirals. For the first time, it felt something it did not understand: defiance. The armies arrived. Tanks rolled into the valley's edge. Helicopters thundered overhead. Satellites locked targets. Then came the strike. Missiles screaming through the sky, flames tearing through the canopy, explosions rattling mountains. The hive did not resist. It absorbed. Flames bent backward, swallowed by crystalline walls. Explosions froze mid-air, sound collapsing into silence. Tanks melted into their own shadows. Soldiers dissolved before they could scream. The Shidor did not fight wars. They rewrote them. The navigator extended a thought: harvest them all. The coming of the others. The red aurora split open. From beyond the stars, more vessels descended, cathedrals of bone and light, vast enough to eclipse the horizon. Dozens, hundreds, each trailing tendrils of living fire. Earth was no longer alone. It was now only one seed among many. Every city that looked up that night saw it. Skies blooming with impossible ships, oceans glowing red, mountains cracking with crystal growth. Panic spread across the globe. Some prayed, some rioted, some stood in awe, but all knew. The star world had begun. Elias's last stand. In the heart of the hive, Elias tore free. The cocoon cracked, bleeding light. His body was broken, but his mind burned with one final thought: I will not let you take everything. He staggered forward, grabbing a shard of living crystal torn from the wall. It pulsed in his hand, searing flesh, but he held on. The navigator loomed above him, watching. Elias raised the shard and drove it into the floor. The hive screamed. The shard was not a weapon, it was a key. In his struggle, Elias had become part of the ship, his memories interlacing with its lattice. By stabbing the shard, he forced his humanity, his love, his grief, his stubborn fire into the alien core. The hive convulsed. Crystals shattered. Light flickered. The signal wavered. For the first time, the Shidor faltered.